Some lines are invisible until someone steps over them. And Ethan Cole did not realize one had been crossed until he felt the silence growing in his own home. Ethan had built his life around simple things. He worked as a project manager at a small construction firm. Steady job, steady income, steady heart. He was not flashy. He did not need to be. He believed in showing up every day, in keeping promises, in loving one woman deeply instead of chasing attention from many. That woman was Lena Dot. Lena had light in her. She laughed easily, cried during sad movies, and believed that hard work could change a person's life. She had recently been promoted to a marketing executive at a fast-growing tech company in the city. It was the kind of place with glass walls, fast talkers, and big dreams. Ethan had been proud of her the day she signed the offer letter. He remembered lifting her off the ground in their tiny kitchen while she laughed and told him to put her down before the neighbors complained. The first few weeks of her new job were exciting. Lena would come home glowing, talking fast about campaigns, creative ideas, and big meetings. Ethan would listen while chopping vegetables for dinner. He loved watching her shine. He loved that she had something that made her eyes sparkle. Then she mentioned her new boss. His name is Victor Hale, she said one evening while slipping off her heels near the door. He's intense, but he knows the industry. People respect him. Ethan nodded. That's good. You'll learn a lot. Victor Hale was the kind of man who understood the power of first impressions. He was tall, well-dressed, and spoke with calm authority. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. When he entered a room, conversation shifted toward him naturally. He praised good work in public and corrected mistakes in private. At least, that was how he appeared. Lena described him as driven, focused, demanding. Sometimes I feel like he can see through people, she said once, half smiling. Like he knows exactly what you want before you say it. Ethan laughed. Maybe he's just good at reading people. Maybe he was. The changes were small at first. Lena began staying late twice a week. Big project, she explained. Victor wants everything perfect. Ethan did not question it. He understood ambition. He respected it. But then late nights became common. Messages buzzed on Lena's phone during dinner. She would glance down quickly, her fingers typing short replies. Work. Ethan asked casually. Yeah, she said. Victor just wants updates. Ethan told himself this was normal. A new job demanded attention. Success required sacrifice. He trusted Lena completely. Trust had never been an issue between them still. Something felt different one Friday night. Ethan attended a company networking event with Lena. It was held at a rooftop lounge downtown. Music played softly, city lights stretching across the horizon. Ethan wore his best suit. Lena wore a deep blue dress that made heads turn. She looked confident, beautiful, alive. Victor greeted them with a firm handshake. His smile was smooth, controlled. Ethan, I've heard so much about you, Victor said. Only good things. I hope, Ethan replied politely. Of course, Victor answered, but his eyes shifted back to Lena quickly, as if Ethan were only a detail in the background. Throughout the evening, Victor found reasons to stand near Lena. He complimented her ideas in front of others. Honestly, this campaign would not exist without Lena's vision, he announced to a small group. Lena blushed slightly, surprised by the public praise. Ethan felt proud. Yet he noticed how close Victor stood, how his hand lingered just a second too long when guiding Lena through the crowd, how his gaze stayed fixed on her even when she looked away. It was subtle, polished, easy to dismiss. On the drive home, Ethan kept his voice light. Your boss really values you. Lena stared out the window. Yeah, he pushes me. There was something in her tone that Ethan could not fully read. The following week, Lena came home quieter than usual. She moved through the apartment as if carrying invisible weight. She still kissed Ethan hello. She still asked about his day. But her energy had shifted. What happened? Ethan asked gently one night. Nothing, she said too quickly. Then she sighed. Just pressure. Victor wants faster results. Is he fair? Lena hesitated. He's complicated. That word stayed with Ethan. Meanwhile, at the office, Victor's attention toward Lena had sharpened. He began inviting her into meetings that did not technically require her presence. He asked for her opinion on matters outside her role. He praised her intelligence in ways that felt personal. "You'd think differently from the others," he told her during one late evening at the office. "You're not afraid to challenge me." Lena smiled politely. "I just want the best outcome." "And I want the best people beside me," Victor replied, his voice lowering slightly. She noticed how empty the office floor had become. Most employees had left. The cleaning staff moved quietly in the distance. Victor stepped closer than necessary while reviewing a presentation on her laptop. His shoulder brushed against hers. Lena shifted subtly. "I should send this draft to the team," she said, creating space. Victor watched her carefully. He was not a reckless man. He moved step by step, testing reactions. He believed patience won every game. Over the next few days, he sent her messages outside of work topics. "You handled that meeting beautifully. You deserve recognition. You're different from the rest." They were not inappropriate on the surface, but they carried weight, intention. Lena felt it at home. Ethan sensed the tension building. He found her sitting on the edge of the bed one night, staring at her phone with a frown. "Everything okay?" he asked. She locked the screen quickly. "Yeah, just tired." He sat beside her. "Lena, you can tell me anything." She nodded, leaning into him. "I know." But she did not speak. The crack in their marriage did not appear because of betrayal. It appeared because of silence. Small things left unsaid. Small doubts unsoared. Victor understood human weakness. He had climbed corporate ladders by reading ambition, insecurity, desire. He saw Lena's hunger for success. He also sensed the strain of her balancing work and marriage. He noticed when she looked exhausted, when she checked her phone nervously before replying to him, when she avoided eye contact after he complimented her too personally. He mistook caution for curiosity. One afternoon, during a team brainstorming session, Victor singled Lena out again. "What do you think, Lena?" he asked, eyes locked on her. "Be honest." She gave her suggestion calmly. The room listened. Victor nodded slowly. "This is why I trust you," he said in front of everyone. "You think beyond limits." The other employees exchanged quick glances. The favoritism was becoming visible. Later, in his office, Victor closed the door behind her after calling her in to discuss future plans. "I see leadership in you," he began, leaning against his desk. "Real leadership." "Thank you," Lena replied carefully. "I can mentor you personally, help you move faster than the others." "That would be great," she said, keeping her tone professional. Victor stepped closer. "But mentorship requires trust, loyalty." The word loyalty echoed strangely. "I'm loyal to the company," Lena answered. Victor's smile shifted slightly. "I meant to me." The air thickened. Lena felt her pulse quicken, not from excitement, but from discomfort. She realized the invisible line had shifted. "I respect you as my boss," she said clearly, "and I want to grow based on my work." Victor studied her face, measuring resistance. He nodded slowly as if accepting her answer, but his eyes showed calculation. "You will," he said, "because I choose who rises." That night, Lena returned home later than usual. Ethan was waiting on the couch, television muted. "You look exhausted," he said, standing up. She forced a small smile. "Long day." He walked toward her and gently brushed hair away from her face. "Is he overworking you?" She hesitated. Then she shook her head. "It's fine." But it was not fine. Victor had not made a direct move yet. He had not spoken clearly enough to accuse. He had only bent the space around her, shaping it slowly, testing how far he could go. Ethan felt something shifting beneath the surface. Not evidence, not proof, just instinct. He trusted Lena completely. But he did not trust the way her shoulders stiffened when her phone buzzed with Victor's name. One evening, while Lena showered, her phone lit up on the kitchen counter. Ethan did not touch it. He did not need to. The screen showed a preview notification, still thinking about our conversation. No work details. No project reference. Just that. Ethan stepped back as if burned. He refused to read further. He refused to invade her privacy. But his chest tightened. When Lena came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her hair, she saw something in Ethan's expression. "What?" she asked softly. He took a breath. "Is your boss crossing boundaries?" Her eyes widened slightly, and for the first time, she could not answer immediately. The silence between them was no longer peaceful. It was heavy, full of truths waiting to be spoken. Some lines are invisible until someone steps over them, and once crossed, they change everything. The offer came on a night when the city lights looked softer than usual, almost kind, as if they were trying to hide what was about to happen. Lena had stayed late again. The office floor was nearly empty, screens dark, chairs pushed in. Only the faint hum of air conditioning filled the silence. She sat at her desk finishing a presentation when Victor's voice came from behind her. "Still working?" "That's dedication." She turned quickly. "I wanted to polish the numbers before tomorrow." He nodded, hands in his pockets. "Good. Come to my office when you're done. We need to talk about your future." Her future. The words felt heavy. 15 minutes later, Lena stood inside Victor's glass office. The blinds were half closed. The skyline stretched behind him. He did not sit behind his desk this time. He stood near the window, sleeves slightly rolled up, tie loosened just enough to look relaxed but still controlled. "You've impressed me," he began. "Not just with skill, with presence." "Thank you," Lena replied, keeping her voice steady. "You know this company rewards bold people. I believe that." Victor walked closer, slow and measured. "I can make you senior strategist within months." Breath caught. "That promotion usually took years." "That's very fast," she said carefully. "It doesn't have to be," he replied. "When the right person supports you." He stopped only a step away from her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Close enough to feel the intention. Lena's mind raced. She had worked hard for this job. She wanted growth. She wanted respect. But not like this. "I want to earn it," she said quietly. Victor tilted his head. "You already have. I just choose who gets seen." The words landed with meaning. He was not talking about performance anymore. He was talking about power. "I'm married," Lena said, her voice firm. Victor's expression barely changed. "Marriage doesn't mean you stop wanting more." "It's not what I meant." "It's not what you meant," he said calmly. "But I also see things clearly. You're not completely happy." That sentence cut deeper than she expected, because he was partly right. She and Ethan had been distant lately. Busy, tired. They loved each other, but life had dulled some spark. Victor had watched carefully and noticed every small sign. "You don't know my marriage," Lena replied. "I know ambition," he answered. "And I know when two people grow at different speeds." Her heart pounded. She realized this was no misunderstanding. This was deliberate. "I respect you as my boss," she said again. "Please don't make this uncomfortable." Victor studied her face for a long moment. Then he stepped back slightly, as if easing tension. "Relax," he said with a small smile. "I'm offering opportunity. Nothing more." But his eyes told another story. Lena left the office feeling shaken. She walked to her car with fast steps, hands trembling slightly as she unlocked it. The promotion had been real. The suggestion had been real. The pressure had been real. On the drive home, she replayed every word. "Marriage doesn't mean you stop wanting more." The sentence echoed. At home. Ethan was sitting at the dining table, paperwork spread around him. He looked up as she entered. "You're late," he said gently. "Big meeting prep." She answered automatically. He stood and walked toward her. "You okay?" She forced a nod. "Just tired." They ate dinner quietly. The silence felt different now, like something unspoken sat between them. Ethan noticed the tension in her shoulders. It's the way she avoided eye contact. After washing the dishes, Lena went to the balcony for air. The night breeze cooled her skin. She wrapped her arms around herself. Ethan joined her a minute later. "Talk to me," he said softly. She looked at him, at the man who had loved her before titles and promotions. The man who knew her worst habits and still chose her every day. "Victor offered me a fast promotion." She said, "That's good, right?" "Yes, but not the way he said it." Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. "Explain." She took a deep breath. "He made it sound like it depends on him. On personal loyalty." The word felt heavy. Ethan stayed silent, letting her continue. He stood too close. "He implied things. He said, 'I'm not fully happy. And are you?'" Ethan asked quietly. The question surprised her. She hesitated. "I'm stressed," she admitted. "We both are." "That's not the same as unhappy. I know." Ethan nodded slowly. "Did he say anything directly?" "No, not clearly enough." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. Anger flickered in his eyes, but he controlled it. "He thinks he can use power to test you." "I shut it down," she said quickly. "I know you did." He believed her, completely. But belief did not erase the insult. The next day at work, Victor acted normal, professional.com. During meetings, he praised Lena's ideas again. He sent her a message in the afternoon about last night. "Think carefully. Doors don't stay open forever." Her stomach tightened. She did not reply. Instead, she saved the message. Over the following days, Victor increased subtle pressure. He assigned her more visible tasks. He scheduled private strategy sessions. He spoke about long-term plans that included her in leadership positions. "You're different from the others," he repeated often. Each compliment felt like a hook. Meanwhile, rumors began spreading quietly among coworkers. Some noticed Victor's attention toward Lena. "You're the favorite now," one colleague joked lightly. Lena forced a smile but felt uncomfortable at home. Ethan watched the situation carefully. He asked questions without accusation. "Any more comments?" he asked one evening. "Just suggestions," she replied. "And reminders." "Reminders of what?" "That I have options." Ethan understood. Victor was not being reckless. He was being strategic. One Friday afternoon, Victor called Lena into his office again. "I need your final answer," he said without preface. "About what?" "Your future I've already answered." "No," he said calmly. "You avoided it." He leaned forward slightly. "I can double your salary within a year. International travel. Leadership authority. But I need someone by my side who trusts me completely." She met his eyes. "I trust my work. That's not enough." The air grew tense. "I won't trade my marriage for a promotion," she said clearly. Victor's expression hardened for the first time. "Don't exaggerate. I'm not." Straightened. "Be careful, Lena. Opportunities are fragile. So's reputation," she replied before she could stop herself. For a brief second, silence filled the room like a warning. Victor smiled again, but it was colder now. "You misunderstand me?" "No," she said. "I understand perfectly." She walked out before he could respond. Her heart raced all the way back to her desk. She knew something had shifted. The game was no longer subtle. That evening, she told Ethan everything. Every word. Every offer. Every message. He listened without interrupting. His hands were clenched on the table. But his voice remained calm. "He thinks he can control outcomes," Ethan said slowly. "He believes power protects him. Not always." Lena looked at him, searching his face. "What do we do?" Ethan leaned back, thinking carefully. "We don't react emotionally. We respond intelligently." She felt a small wave of relief hearing that. He was not shouting. Not demanding she quit. Not blaming her. "We document everything," he continued. "Save messages. Write down dates. Keep records, and then we decide when to use them." Victor believed he was offering opportunity. He did not realize he was creating evidence. The next week, tension in the office became sharper. Victor reduced public praise. He became more formal during meetings. but privately he sent another message. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Lena saved it. One afternoon, he closed the door again. "You could have had everything," he said quietly. "I already do," she answered. He looked at her carefully. "You're choosing comfort over greatness." "No," she said. "I'm choosing self-respect." His jaw tightened slightly. In that moment, she saw clearly who he was. Not powerful, not confident, just a man used to getting his way. And for the first time, he wasn't. But Victor was not done as Lena walked back to her desk. She sensed that rejecting him would come with consequences. She just did not know how far he was willing to go, and neither did Ethan. The invisible line had been crossed completely. Now, what came next would test more than ambition. It would test loyalty, courage, and the strength of a marriage standing under pressure. The tension had been building for weeks, and now it was time to act. Ethan and Lena knew that reacting impulsively would only make matters worse. Victor Hale was clever. He didn't make obvious moves. He tested boundaries in small steps. Calculated gestures that seemed innocent to most, but to them were clear signs of overreach. They had gathered every message, every invitation, every subtle attempt at influence, and stored it carefully. Each note, each email was a piece of the puzzle that would eventually reveal Victor's true intentions. Lena felt nervous, but Ethan's steady presence reminded her that she was not alone. He had always been calm under pressure, and now his patience became their secret weapon. Victor was confident in his office, unaware that the game had shifted. He believed he had the upper hand, that his charm and authority could sway Lena to his side. That confidence had guided him through boardrooms and corporate hierarchies for years. He never expected to be challenged, especially not by the quiet composure of a married woman determined to maintain her integrity. He sent another message to Lena that morning, casually phrased but with a clear implication. "You know what we discussed? Think carefully about your decisions." She did not respond. Instead, she saved it, documented the time and date, and then went about her work, her hands steady, her focus sharp. Later, Lena requested a meeting with Human Resources. She had rehearsed every word, every point she would make. She would not attack Victor personally. She would present facts, professional evidence, a clear record of behavior that crossed boundaries. Ethan had helped her organize everything, from the earliest messages to the subtle inefficiencies that revealed favoritism and pressure. She knew that showing emotions was not the point. Clarity and calmness were. HR staff listened intently, taking notes. They asked questions for clarification, not confrontation. Lena answered truthfully, professionally, and without hesitation. For the first time in weeks, she felt a weight lift. It's a feeling of control returning to her own hands. Victor, meanwhile, sensed a shift in the office dynamic. He noticed that Lena was no longer reacting nervously to his presence. She spoke in meetings with confidence, her suggestions respected by peers and supervisors alike. He had expected hesitation, subtle compliance, or even flattery. Instead, she presented her ideas firmly, with a calm that bordered on defiance. Small whispers began among other employees. Some had always noticed Victor's favoritism, but now they saw that Lena refused to play the manipulative game. She could rise based on skill, not compliance with unspoken pressures. His authority in the office began to feel challenged. The first cracks in his carefully crafted image appeared. One afternoon, Victor called Lena into his office again. The door closed behind her, and for a moment she felt that old tension rise. But she had prepared, and her preparation gave her strength. She placed the printed emails on his desk, opened her laptop to show messages and documented interactions, and spoke clearly about the boundaries he had crossed. She emphasized professional respect, integrity, and the expectation that leadership should guide, not manipulate. Victor's confident mask faltered. For the first time, he saw the consequences of underestimating someone's resolve. "You've misinterpreted my intentions," Victor said smoothly, attempting to regain control. But Lena's calm response did not waver. She reiterated the professional standards. pointed out repeated instances. It made it clear that she expected HR to enforce these standards without exception. His attempts at persuasion became weaker, his words less persuasive, his confidence waning under the weight of documentation and clear accountability. Lena had turned the situation into one where he had no choice but to confront the reality of his behavior. After the meeting, Victor's demeanor in the office changed dramatically. He no longer lingered near Lena, no longer gave personal compliments or invitations outside of professional necessity. The whispers among employees grew louder, and HR began formal proceedings to investigate the pattern of behavior Victor had exhibited. Within weeks, he was placed under review and eventually removed from his leadership position pending further evaluation. The polished reputation he had maintained for years was now questioned. Not because of malice, but because of his own arrogance. He had assumed power protected him, and it did not. At home, Ethan and Lena sat together on the balcony, hands intertwined, watching the city lights flicker. They felt a quiet victory, one that was less about Victor's downfall and more about the strength of their own bond. This challenge had exposed cracks in their lives, yes, but it had also reminded them why they had chosen each other. They had weathered stress, tension, and the invisible pressures that Victor had tried to exploit. They had confronted it together with patience, clarity, and trust. Ethan had not reacted impulsively. Lena had not allowed fear to dominate her choices. Their partnership had endured the test. Victor had thought he could interfere in a marriage, disrupt the stability of a family, and achieve personal gain. Instead, his actions had highlighted the loyalty, trust, and courage that Ethan and Lena shared. Their love, tested under pressure, emerged stronger and more resilient. The experience did not leave them untouched. There were lingering discussions, moments of reflection and recognition of vulnerabilities, but it reinforced the foundation they had built together. Love, they realized, was not only about passion or attraction. It was about standing together, protecting each other's boundaries, and choosing each other every day. Life returned to a new rhythm. Lena focused on her career, but now with a clear sense of empowerment and boundaries. Ethan continued his work, but with an even deeper respect for the quiet strength that Lena carried. Their conversations at night returned to lighthearted laughter, dreams of travel, and shared goals. They had faced external pressure, navigated complex emotions, and come out not only intact but united. The city outside their window, once a place of tension and challenge, now reflected possibility, growth, and resilience. Victor's absence from the office became a silent reminder of choices and consequences. Ethan and Lena did not celebrate his removal with triumph or vengeance. They did not need to. The true victory lay in their strength and bond, their regained trust, and their ability to confront adversity with intelligence, integrity, and patience. They realized that the most meaningful power in life was not control over others, but control over one's own actions, decisions, and emotions. One evening, as they sipped tea and watched the sunset, Lena leaned her head on Ethan's shoulder. "We handled it together," she said softly. "Yes," Ethan replied, squeezing her hand. "And that's what matters." They smiled, feeling the quiet peace that comes from knowing that challenges can test love, but never break it when both people stand firmly together. Their hearts were full, their respect deepened, and their connection strengthened. The ordeal with Victor Hale had ended, but the lessons remained. Trust, patience, integrity, and unity were the most powerful forces in any relationship. In the end, Victor had thought he could disrupt their lives, but he had only reminded them of what truly mattered. He had underestimated the strength of partnership, the resilience of love, and the courage of two people determined to protect what was theirs. The experience became a story they would reflect on, a moment in time that reminded them of the power of loyalty, the necessity of boundaries, and the quiet triumph of doing what was right. Ethan and Lena had faced manipulation, pressure, and temptation, but they emerged with clarity. Their love had been tested, their patience stretched. Yet the foundation they built on respect, trust, and shared commitment held firm. They had chosen each other again and again, And in that choice, they found victory far greater than any career advancement or temporary display of power could offer. The city around them shimmered with lights, each one a silent witness to the strength of their bond and the wisdom of standing together through life's challenges.